Just raise whichever motion, raise your hand so I can tell them. But sometimes it's a mess.
Well, there'll be no motion tonight, so.
Well, or even the roll call and
Right.
everything, yeah.
All right, let's call the meeting in order. Pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And three, roll call.
Jensen. Yes. Kagan.
Yes.
Cruzy.
Here.
Schultz. Boss. Yes. Langhauser.
Here.
Lehmeyer.
Yes. Item four, approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as written.
Motion made, second, roll call.
Langhauser.
Yes.
Cruzy.
Yes.
Jensen. Yes. Boss. Yes. Schultz. Lehmeyer.
Yes.
Kagan.
Yes. Item five, visitor participation. Everybody, here's the board. This is our attorney, Barney Muntendorf. And I'm gonna say a few words here first. We are announcing our return to school plan for September 16th, next Wednesday. As a few of us have talked, we have a letter from the health department that our attorney thinks is good. I'm gonna read that to you now. To whom may concern, the District School District has worked cooperatively with the Clinton County Health Department over the course of the last few weeks to develop a solid, mindful, and thorough reopening. While we cannot ensure with full confidence a reopening can be done without additional exposure to the COVID-19 virus, we can say with confidence that District 12 has developed the safest plan possible. The pandemic has presented countless hurdles and has created an environment of uncertainty that the Clinton County Health Department is committed to and continued working relationship with District 12 in the coming weeks. In collaboration, we will both respond immediately to any potential safety risks that may arise. We encourage parents to evaluate their respective situations. If parents have a child who is at high risk or if parents have serious reservations themselves, it might be the best to explore the remote learning option. In the best interest of their children emotionally and educationally, we offer our support as we move forward cautiously. If you have any questions or concerns, please call, reach out. Sincerely, Sean Appler, Interim Administrator of Clinton County Health Department. So with that, the other issues we had, and our attorney agrees, he thinks we're good there. The teachers union voted, said we're good to go back, they're good to go back. We have a few glitches in transportation to work out. We want to be able to have as many volunteer parents as we can. We'd like to get parents on the bus to bus monitors, basically, to be able to not take samples, but to make sure the kids are sitting in their seats, assigned seats, making sure their masks stay on the whole time they're on the bus. We're still working on a few routes. We're looking at canceling the in-town routes, anything in a mile and a half from this building itself. Legally, we should be allowed to shut down. That's going to eliminate a lot of kids that are in town. Let's face it, the safest way to get your kid here is to bring them here in person. This busing, we still have to bring country kids for All Saints, for Modern Day, for Central. This has been a big sticking point on how to do this and do it safely. We still hopefully can maybe move a few teachers to be a bus monitor, but we really need parent volunteers. This is one of the biggest points that we need. So we're going to have 5 routes, maybe 4, depending. Right now, we currently have a bus driver on quarantine. He will come back Tuesday. So we have just enough drivers to drive around. Anybody wants a job driving a bus, please feel free to take a job. But transportation is going to be the biggest nightmare of all. So with that being said, we also set our metrics for COVID. So I'll read this aloud also. District 12 will analyze the following information when we make decisions about changing directions with learning plan. Item 1, District 12 will continue to look at Clinton County level metrics for COVID-19. Item 2, District 12 will take into consideration the number of students and staff in our district that are at home, on quarantine, or probable COVID-19 positive. Item A, if we have 8% of our students or staff placed in quarantine due to either COVID-like illnesses or exposure to an individual who has tested positive for COVID-19, we'll be forced to make adjustments to our learning environment. We will look at the metrics for an individual in the building. At Beckmeyer, 8% of our student staff population would equal 2 staff members and 13 students. And Breeze, 8% of our students and staff population would equal 3 staff members and 35 students. If we hit either of these levels in either of our buildings, we will go not separately. We're going to try to keep Beckmeyer separate from Breeze. So we will go straight into e-learning for 14 days. Not 14 learning days, 14 days. So the second we hit our 8%, we're not doing a rolling average. We're not doing anything like that. Once we hit that threshold, the next day it was remote learning. And then from that day, it's 14 days. So then there's no possible spread in the building or anything like that. So, okay, item B. Exceptions could possibly occur if we cannot staff the building. Item C, expectations should occur only due to the number of positive COVID-19 cases in the building or guidance from the health department. Any board members have anything to add before we open it up?
My question was on the 8%. Does that mean if they come out of quarantine, it starts over? I know you said something about rolling, but
no,
will that just keep adding up?
That's just 8%. So like tomorrow, Wednesday, we come to school. Heaven forbid, Monday we're at 8%. Boom. It's not a rolling. We're at 8%. Once we hit 8%, that's the start of 14 days.
Okay.
You guys have a count.
But then when we come back from 14 days, is it 0 again?
Yes, yeah, because then everybody's quarantined.
Okay.
You know, and if that time somebody else becomes positive, well, they're out of school. So then we come back and then we start over. We're not, yeah.
Do you have an active, do you know what your numbers are now, students and in quarantine now?
Yeah.
That being counted as a current situation? Or will the numbers start on?
Right now,
Good question.
right now, the 2 staff members, one of them is a bus driver, this quarantine will both return by the 16th. So they're both back actually. One is on the 16th, one the day before.
So we should start at 0.
So we start 0 staff members, and right now there's 3 current. So
Those tested positive or those?
no, those are just more.
Just more.
We did have a positive. We've had positive staff cases, but the students were just more.
And then the 8% goes to positive cases, or 8% goes to just exposure?
Just exposure. Quarantine exposure, it doesn't matter.
Are we gonna look at when the students who have been on quarantine are coming off quarantine? Because, you know, what if it's one more day, you're gonna have 4 kids off quarantine, but on that specific day, you have 8% on quarantine? Like, it seems silly that if 4 kids are gonna roll off the next day.
If it's the next day, those are things we will look at. Those are things we will look at.
Yeah, we have people coming back.
Right.
We can offset that.
Was that going back to school or like?
No, our half days, the health department, our half day plan, just like what we had planned before.
So
We
no
made some
lunch.
changes to that, band has been eliminated to most extent. They can go in single class periods when they're in PE. We use, it'll only be played outside, no band in the building. Only as class, we have made some changes. If Travis wants to talk about that a little bit.
Just some minor changes that we did make here. we're just gonna basically have one homeroom at a time. Initially, we were following lesson 50 where we might have combined two homerooms, talk to the teachers. So basically, we'll either rotate within the class period where kids will get 15, 20 minutes per homeroom, and we have a PE teacher and paraprofessional, so we'll be able to rotate that. The best we can to get them at least up and moving a little bit throughout the day. So there'll be some PE time, but it'll just be more or less to kind of be able to get up and move around, but it will be with their homeroom. We are going to change it. We think we worked out a plan. We have it staffed. Car riders and walkers will not be able to ride before 7:30 because kids will go straight to their homeroom. Staffing wise, it's going to be difficult for us. We can't have more than 50 in space, so we have to have kids go directly to their homeroom.
Wasn't it initially set for car riders or bikers, whoever had the most kids up to 5 to 8?
Well, that's what we encouraged when we did the survey. We had some parents say, hey, we can't make it before 7. We have to come at 7:30 or 7:15. So we were going to make it 7:45. We chose the 7:30 because we feel we can get staffed, and then that gives us a little bit more time. We try to be as flexible as we can for people.
But a kid at 7:30, your kid's sitting for an hour in their mask extra long.
So closer to 7:45 better.
Right. Jeremy, yeah.
Just one thing, is there a thought there of having with parents, coordinate some of this, issues that we need to.
We can definitely start up a committee, that's not a problem at all. I mean, that's not a problem. Until our numbers get out of the orange and red though, this is the way, the only thing the health department will let happen is half day. But as we go on, we can start a meeting together. I don't think any of the board is against that.
So is there any scenario right now that would potentially lead to a hybrid? Schedule it all, or is it just full remote or half
Well, hybrid is
in-person.
difficult to do because you're not, in my opinion, right now, they got that 90, were they 96 kids? 98 kids. They get one more kid, they hit the 10%. And then boom, and then what do they do? They don't even tell you exactly what you're gonna do. You're not solving problem. They don't think there's been school spread, but the problem with young children, they're showing no symptoms. So you're not stopping the spread, even though we may not know most of these kids have it, but they're still spreading it to each other. So we go straight to 14-day remote learning. We have stopped that spread from the school district at that point. Okay, I gotta think about how we're doing this. People wanted to ask questions. I'm sorry, a couple more questions, and then we gotta let them other people. Go ahead, Bluegrass.
Can you explain the reasoning between the half days versus the full days?
Couple reasons. We have already 10% of our population that requested remote. So to give teachers ample opportunity to effectively teach those students, we needed some sort of early dismissal anyway. And then on top of that, another one of our issues was safety, serving lunch to kids, because staffing space, things like that, to be able to basically we were in a classroom and not be able to social distance without masks. So because we were going to have to do an early dismissal anyway, because 10% of kids that chose remote learning, we went ahead and did the early dismissal without lunch. Like Jamie said, the health department really like that aspect of the plan to at least get started. Going forward, like you said, if we maybe move out of the March year, we start looking at different things and making some change. But that was the reason behind it. We have so many remote kids, and then we eliminate one of our biggest problems, safely spacing kids out for lunches.
So can you talk to the fact, so I get the half days. I don't know that I necessarily understand why that's a recommendation for our school by the health department and other schools are going full days. But can you help me understand what the plan is for these kids that are now only getting a half a day of school? They're already behind from the spring. How are we gonna
Every
get them
school in
close?
this state is behind it, so.
Right, I
And you have
understand
to
that, but at the
realize,
same
District
point,
12 has, how many students, I'm sorry?
We have right around 600.
600 total. So you can't compare us to Martelso, Davisville. I work in the community at schools. When they only have 17 kids in a class, they can spread out in the cafeteria and have lunch. Most of the schools in the area are not even serving lunch. They give them a lunch to go home.
well, I
So,
understand, I can I finish my question?
yeah, I'm sorry, I thought you were finished, I'm sorry.
So my question is though, how are we gonna make sure that these kids are getting the education that we all know that they need? Because if we're talking getting out of the orange or the red or whatever it is, we're coming upon flu season, I think a lot of us had anticipated that we are gonna be in this. I don't see how our kids are gonna be successful at the end of this school year if we're going 4 or 6 months of half days. I need somebody to help me understand that, like, I'm struggling now. My daughter was supposed to be in full day classes, she's getting about 2.5 hours a day, most of which we're doing, by watching the videos. So she's averaging about 12.5 hours a week of school. She should have been getting 25. So if we're going to half days, I know that ups that, but how are we gonna balance that to make sure that these kids are where they need to be by the end of the school year?
We are, again, like Davey said, we've got people going hybrid where they're getting half of their time. I mean, schools all over the state, we have to follow that guidance given to us by ISD, by the Illinois State Board of Education, which says we have to have the 50 kids in a room, we have to follow all these guidelines. The best way that we can do that to make our kids safe is 12:30 because we understand there's going to be obstacles. We want to be in school now. We are bound by these guidelines we have to follow. So we will keep working to try to get back to normal as quick as we can. And there's not a perfect answer for everything. Our teachers are going to work hard in the classroom, getting them in here for a little bit, like I think a lot of you mentioned, and letters is better than nothing at all. In order to keep the kids here and curse longer, us along with the health department felt that this was the best way. If we go full days and we serve lunch and we're right next to each other with masks off, we may be on 14-day quarantine throughout the entire school year. So everybody's trying to figure this out, but in order to make this work, we're thinking this plan will give us the longevity to be in person before, we have to go on quarantine. And I don't know if you've all read the quarantine rules, but if your child is next to a positive case, them and everybody around is out for 14 days. So there will be a lot of back and forth, possibly. So the health department, along with us, again, feel this plan will limit that and at least allow us, once we get back, to try to be back longer in person so we're not going back and forth.
But even at best case scenario, based on what you're saying, we're gonna be looking at half days. We're probably gonna go back to remote, which again is gonna put my daughter back to 12.5 hours of schoolwork a week versus the 25 she should have been getting. I don't know that I see how we get past that. I know that this is the best option that you can have, but I'm still struggling to understand how.
Can they do state testing this year then? We're coming state testing time, when do we do that?
Well, right now they plan on doing.
Let's not talk over each other, please, also. Personally, I'm not an educator. This is the best we can do for right now. I understand it's not ideal. I don't think anybody thinks it is. We all realize we want to get these kids back all day classes. But for right now, this is the best we can absolutely do. Hopefully we can step up the e-learning after, we get done with, we're going to have 4.5 hours of in-school learning. And then hopefully get some still more e-learning after that. So that's the best. Does that answer your question?
I know there's no perfect answer, but we are kind of bound by this document that we have to follow. And in order to safely do it, this was the best way for us to do it. Again, the health department has been working close with us, and they like our chances with this. Maybe go on a little bit longer. So there's not a lot of people that have a perfect situation in the state. There's hybrids where they're getting half the learning and not here every day. everybody's trying to do the best they can with their facilities and their staff and all those things to meet these guidelines and at least get kids in here.
Yeah.
I have a question. What about the kids with the IEP? So if we go back to full remote, I mean, I have twins that are on a speech IEP, and today was their first day, and it was brutal, and that's only speech. I mean, what about if you needed OT and PT, and you're trying to do that through a computer, or your kid has autism, and the computer itself is a distraction? I mean, they're not getting the services they need. I talked to someone who does therapy, and she did a 20-minute session today, and the student got up 9 times, and she's trying to tell them, sit back down, sit back down. How are they getting the services that they desperately need? And my twins are, you know, on the far end of the spectrum. They don't need a lot, but what if you would have a child that needs the OT, the PT? I mean, how are we giving them their needs if we can't do that remote?
We've been able to work individually with people and special ed teachers and our.
Because right now they're not though, right? They're not.
We're getting in contact, and there's a possibility, even if we have to go forward, as long as someone doesn't completely shut us down as we get going, those kids can possibly, you know, come in for some of those services. Now, the speech services, again, I'm just telling you what's recommended in the guidelines. They're not even wanting our kids and our speech teachers to take off masks.
Oh yeah, like today.
So sometimes they're saying video, while it's not ideal.
You can't see how they're articulating and what they're doing with their tongues. And I mean, the twins dropped off 3 times today. Each one of them did it different times because they do it at the same time. And I mean, it's not that it's a waste of time, but you can't see what they're doing like they should be.
Right.
I mean, she wanted to write them off at the beginning of the year without even looking at them. I mean,
those are things we look into. As long as we can look at individual IPs, and if we're able to, you know, have appointments and sign-up times to get some of those kids their OTPP services and things like that, we'll, you know, try to work with those families and meet those needs, meet those documents that we're supposed to. I know our special ed teachers are working, our ACE reps are working, try to make those things happen later supposed to. So we'll have plans in place for that.
Jeremy?
And, one question back to the positivity, percentage rate. Is that what the health department's gonna report to you, or if somebody has a symptom, a cough or a sneeze, and we decide to keep them home? Is that?
One day is not a symptom. One day is.
So it's not gonna count absences, it's just gonna count?
No, it's quarantine from being in contact with someone with COVID or positive COVID contact. Or positive COVID test.
That's reported to the health, okay.
Yeah.
Can I just,
Go ahead, quick.
well, lunch is concerning to us just because our kids get on, they get on the bus at 7:15 in the morning. You know, they wait here and I don't know how long the wait's gonna be here, given that it's a half day, hopefully they won't have to wait long. But you're talking after 1 o'clock for a 6-year-old and a 7, well, you think an 8-year-old can eat anything. And that's, I don't know about you, but when I'm hungry, I'm not really a very nice person to be around, and my focus is definitely not on what I'm learning, but instead on what, when's my next opportunity to eat something.
Our thoughts on that, to the greatest extent possible, we'll send out something of appropriate snacks to bring, so when those kids go to PE and they can go outside and they can space out, try to get them snacks. If they have PE early in the morning, we'll work with them. If they're a 3 through 8 student that has an RTI class, they can possibly take 15 minutes of their class when they're not doing an activity, go outside, spread out, and have a snack. And again, not ideal. None of this is completely ideal, but we
But at least the
understand
opportunity
that.
to have a snack is better.
If we're gonna try, we're gonna work and try to have snacks for these kids.
And the people coping with kids, I believe, is gonna have snacks for us here. Obviously, actually the state, you wanna talk about the lunch now?
Yeah, definitely. And I was gonna send a call out about this, but we've been caught up with some other things at the moment. But, we are through December 31st, the state extended, we applied for the summer food program basically, so every student in the district, will get free meals until December. So
Anybody who wants to take a meal with them at the end of the day can for free.
So you're gonna offer the meals now, or is this something?
Yeah, we'll have snack, we'll have brown bag lunches going out the door with every kid if they so choose.
yeah.
And right now it's covered by the state.
Correct.
Yes.
Do we have a plan for when you do get out of the red or the orange, like whatever?
Absolutely not yet. We just, we just crossed this hurdle right now, so no, we do not have anything yet on how we're gonna get back to full days. Once we go to blue, I believe that we're good with the health department, we're good to go back. We have talked about Beckham Mile possibly being opened up a little bit more, but it does, and this is something in the committee we can talk about, that the e-learning part is gonna be harder to try to get Beckham Mile going to full days sooner because we have less kids. 2 lunch hours, gymnasium, the cafeteria, we will be able to spread out more. So we are looking at that. We are trying to work toward that.
We've looked at, sorry to cut you off, even if it's not 2:30, you know, if it's 2, 1, just to provide extra time in the afternoon for those kids that are still going to choose remote. So the full day may not turn into 2:30 or 2:45, but if, you know, 2 o'clock, 1:40, we'll talk about it within our committees and things like that. We have thought about those things. Josh and I have scheduled, can't tell you how many schedules we have put together for different things and different scenarios that we had as we came up with this plan. So we have things in the works that we can talk about starting points, where we go, if we need to do.
Go ahead.
I just had a question just for clarity. Are you saying that our student population is one of the differentiating factors that separates us from the surrounding schools that are in full session right now?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that because
I
think a lot of us are sitting here wondering why are we so different?
Yeah, we are way different. I mean, St. Rose went remote. They don't, you know, they're way smaller. They can keep containment in classroom with no problem. They're not double sectioned in anything, you know. So this is a big problem with us. But luckily, we do have 2 schools. Central has about the same amount of student population. They have about 10% of more, you know, room and 10% more staff. They can spread out. They can have all these aides to do all these other things to help me learn here, help in. So we're just, and one, I'm going to tell you right now, we're still broke. Remember, we try to get referendums passed. A lot of people here try to help it still. So there's no extra money. The state's giving all this money. Fed's giving all away this money. We haven't gotten any of it. We did get $60,000 for Chromebooks. That's why right now we can have every kid have a Chromebook in the school. So.
Can I go?
Yes.
So my question is just to plan in case we have to go and set 14 days.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys have it set up for next week? The kids can bring in their Chromebooks. It's a whole technology issue. I have a 5th and 7th grader. I'm at home with them. It's dreadful. I feel like the teachers need a little bit more coaching with their tone and everything else. But even just the whole technology part, my 7th grader, her first period today was all about 10 kids that didn't turn in homework because they had turned it in 2 different places. They didn't know how to do it, and they were going to get a 0 if it wasn't turned in. So these kids are already anxious, and to put that on a kid just because they don't know, so I think they need to bring them in, and that's, I know it's only 5th grade that have them, but they need to be able to learn how to navigate this better in case we have to go back to that, especially for those parents that aren't home to help.
And I think that's the plan, and I know that's why, like you said, the teachers they want to get kids in here to have time to use those things. That's what I know they will definitely address those things when kids come back.
So basically on Wednesday, we should plan on them bringing their Chromebook and everything so they can get that.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
They need to bring it every day. The 5th grade, they need to bring it every day anyway. Because they're going to utilize those 5th grade graders are one-to-one. They'll use it every day in class. So they need to bring it every day. Anyway.
Yeah.
I can second that. The twins are in 5th grade, and when they have science, they're supposed to have their Zoom up so that she can see them, have Google Classroom up, HMH up, toggle between all 3, and she wants them to take notes on their Chromebook. Okay, first of all, they're 10. They're trying to figure out how to type technology, because that's what they're learning on. No one's ever told them how to take notes. There's no worksheets, there's no textbooks. I mean, and then she's yelling at them because they can't toggle back between all 3 of them and take notes at the same time. I mean, I don't know about you, but there's some high schoolers that don't even take notes like that, let alone a 5th grader. I mean, there's no, and I mean, it's only week 2. I mean, this was in week 1 she expected that.
And like I just said, that's why I think they're eager to get back in here too.
It's not ideal. I know e-learning's not ideal. We're on our 8th day. We're gonna try every day to make it better.
Do they get textbooks when they come back in, or is it still all this electronic book?
Depends on the class. Some of the classes have electronic textbooks now.
I didn't know if that was just because we were remote learning, or if that's how it would have been here regardless.
That's what the direction we were able to go. That's not the only direction we're able to go for some of the reasons Jamie was mentioned earlier. But
It's a learning process for the teachers too, you know, so hopefully they'll work with you on this and give them feedback, maybe they can take it.
It's a learning process for everybody. Everybody's sitting here, it's been a learning.
Go ahead, Carrie.
Hey, I just have, not necessarily me, I have older kids, but how about when we hit that 14-day mark, or excuse me, we hit the 8%, are you guys like gonna give us an all-call, an email, something saying, hey, we have 2 cases type thing, so that we kind of know we're getting
Yes,
close?
we're gonna try to keep a running tally, where we're at. I don't know how we're gonna.
I've got a forum created, so we'll communicate how that's gonna be shared with everybody, but, yeah, we will share that, because I know people will use that kind of look, see. Now, like, we said, depending upon how positive cases are linked within the building, it could happen pretty quickly.
Yeah, exactly. Remember, outbreak in your school is 2 kids in the same class get it. The whole school gets shut down.
If they can link it to that.
If they can link it,
They
they
don't
got
get
it
it,
in the.
they've been next to somebody that's got it, you're saying.
They
don't necessarily get it, they've been next to somebody that may have got it.
Oh, no, if somebody, we have a positive, the people around them will be quarantined, no matter what.
Right.
The health department will guide us through that. But if we have 2 positive cases that can't be linked to home, hanging out on the weekend, the school's shut down. That's considered an outbreak by the IDPH, and we're shut down. That's every school in the, state.
We're gonna say they got it at Dairy King. Oh, sorry, Michelle.
I was gonna say, I don't think anybody's gonna be able to trace this back solely
If
to
they can
school.
link it to the school, that's what
Yes.
they will tell us when we both have a warning, other than me to tell you, hey, we found this out the next day.
Yeah.
It's out of your guys' hands too. You guys-
Yeah, it's out of our hands. Doug, you have something to
Because
say?
I just want to make sure we get a follow-up on that, you know, so teachers are having trouble, struggling with how the teachers are doing this. How do they get feedback back to teachers?
If I emailed a teacher because she had a video that they had watched, and we could not hear her. The volume was up, and reached out. I didn't get anything back. I've been trying to communicate with the ones, that we're having issues with, and I'm not getting a response.
Same here. I've been
Even on
emailing
attendance.
with no
Same here.
Hey guys, how many people are back there that want to come in and ask questions? Sorry.
That's something we can work on.
Maybe 10 or so. So if you guys wanna go that way, I'll let them in this way, so we're
If you
not.
guys want to spread out farther back, kind of in the hallway.
Can I have one more question? What if there's more questions to be asked and we don't have the time frame to ask them because you're pushing us out of here?
Right. Call school tomorrow, email me, email the board.
Can we get a group of people on a committee to meet with you?
Absolutely,
once
absolutely.
Before Tuesday, or 16th, whenever that is?
Just to keep the transparency in.
Yeah, we can try before Tuesday.
Yeah, just to communicate some of this, then we can,
So,
if I tell 5 people that are
I
asking
will
questions.
gladly head up that committee. I think we should try to get a couple teachers on it. Maybe one other school board member. We have a lot of school board issues if we have too many of us together.
Yeah,
But
I agree.
I can talk to a couple of powers that be that we've already met and definitely get something set up.
I think the biggest thing is just transparency. Like,
What, are we allowed to come back in after that group is done asking questions?
Well, there's always 10 if you want to stay.
I'll go. I mean,
I'm only an outbreak does not require the closure of an entire school.
No, it's
It
just
says
that
to prompt
classroom.
an investigation with the LHD that may result in a recommendation for testing and quarantining all students and staff in affected classrooms.
Yes.
The entire school. Just in case somebody was.
Yeah, the outbreak is, I'm sorry.
I mean, your terminology is right, 2 is an outbreak, but
Right.
it doesn't require
But
closure
no
of the entire
class
school.
may get notified.
Yeah, so this is all learning curve for everybody. I'm not an epidemiologist. I have no idea what we're doing, so.
So let me just mention, just grab, right? Some health departments don't follow the rules.
So I had one client where they had an outbreak in a high school, 2 positive claims. They shut the whole high school down for 14 days, not just that classroom, and not just those individuals that came within 16 or more than 15 minutes. So depending on your health department, you know, the health department is going to ultimately make any final decision.
Right, but I mean, I feel like there are 2 positive right now in Central, and Central hasn't been shut down, so I don't know why they would.
I think what Jamie was saying earlier was that if they were linked to spread within the school. Yeah, those
Yeah,
two were.
they have the link to spread, they
got
can't figure out anywhere else they got it. This was their only contact with anybody that's known positive.
Those two they knew they got it.
Right, it says link to the classroom within 14 day
Right.
period, and it's still.
No, I mean,
I mean, yes, you are right, we still have to follow the, you know, whatever Clayton County Health Department would recommend us to do. And I am in agreement with that, but, I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that the entire school.
Right, correct. So guys, I will be outside after the meeting if you guys are gonna stay around. If you wanna ask a question to any individual, I'll stay around for sure outside if you wanna talk.
I mean, my questions I want for the board, I don't want
Right.
for individual one-offs. I would like to have a group conversation so we're all on the same page, because I think that's what a lot of us are concerned about is we don't know what's going on, we don't understand why there's differences, and it would be nice for us all to hear the same information at the same time.
Right.
So I am more than willing to come back in after this group comes,
Okay.
but I don't know that I'm comfortable having a one-off conversation.
I think it needs to be heard for everybody that's at home listening as well.
That's why we have to get these people and let them be heard too, so.
We can't, you know, obviously.
Please, one last question.
More than 3
Go ahead.
Otherwise it's considered.
Fall sports.
Uh-huh.
What is the plan for fall sports?
We haven't not even discussed this yet.
Can we please go back on Monday? I mean, we got a plan to go back on school.
We will not start sports until we can start school up. That's been school policy, and that will be done. We could talk about it starting Wednesday. I don't know what we even have scheduled right now. I have no idea.
It's all scheduled. They haven't canceled anything.
Okay, well, if we have a game Wednesday, I'm assuming we can.
Let's not punish these kids anymore.
No,
They can be out there playing. A lot of the people in this room have kids playing sports and.
Absolutely,
and
my
everything,
son's just out of college year of football.
I'm just asking, let's.
I get it,
Let's look at that.
100% get it.
Yeah, but they may push that back to the spring. We won't get a spring.
I don't think they're going, we'll see.
Thank you guys for your time.
You guys want to go that way in the gym, then we'll swing you back through again, let this group have a chance.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tim?
In the gym.
So there's more of you guys can stay in here. Go ahead.
Go ahead. You guys have any questions?
Sure.
I have 9, so 5 more can stay if they want. You guys can come in. No.
Hey guys, were you able to hear us in there on the call?
Yeah, but it was all echoey, but we have a lot of
And it's hard to hear you, Jamie, just because you're so far away, I think.
Usually that's not a problem. Who wants to go first? Question? You need.
Why don't you start again?
Just let them, in case they didn't catch what we covered.
Okay, I don't know if you catch it. The back to school plan is starting September 16th. We got a letter from the health department. I can read it to you now. To whom it may concern, the District 12 School District has worked cooperatively with the Clinton County Health Department over the course of the last few weeks to develop a solid, mindful, and thorough reopening plan. While we cannot ensure with full confidence a reopening can be done without additional exposure to the COVID-19 virus, we can say with confidence that District 12 has developed the safest plan possible. This pandemic has presented countless hurdles and has created an environment of uncertainty. By the Clinton County Health Department is committed to a continued working relationship with District 12 in the coming weeks. In collaboration, we will both respond immediately to any potential safety risks if they arise. We encourage parents to evaluate their prospective situations. If parents have a child who is at higher risk, Our parents have serious reservations themselves. It might be best to explore the remote option learning. However, if parents feel returning to in-person learning is the best interest of their children emotionally and educationally, we offer support as well as we all move forward cautiously. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel to reach out to us. Sincerely, Sean Effort, Administrator of Clinton County Health Department. I don't know if he's caught that before. So what we were waiting for is a letter. It's half days just like we were before. We did change some things around educationally wise. We had to eliminate band for the most part. We will have some individual classes, not the whole classroom, just individual homerooms, be able to practice their instruments outside during their PE. They will not be in full band. They will not be playing instruments, throwing spit everywhere. We're trying to be as safe as possible. Transportation is still a nightmare. If anybody please wants to step up and help be a bus aide in the morning or in the afternoon on the way home, just basically monitor seat assignments, make sure they're sitting in the right seat chart, checking off that they were there, and making sure their mask stays on the whole way. You already have a question, Laura, go ahead.
Well, I know, just to follow up on that, do you know what time they would need to be here? Because I do have a list of volunteers that have already signed up to help either morning, afternoon. So,
Talking about like six-ish in the morning for some of the routes, and, the
What time are they
afternoon.
be done?
They would be here
by quarter late.
After latest.
Yeah, and then in the afternoon, about, again, buses leave here about 2:40, 2:30, depending upon.
No.
It'll be 12:30. Oh, 12:30, yeah.
And I'm assuming meeting here,
Beckmeyer.
meeting here, like in the back parking lot, I'm assuming that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
How long are the classes? Like, how many minutes do they get each subject to figure out?
Right. The new people get their questions first. Sorry. Anybody that just came in that have.
So my question's in relation to the bus. Is there anything more that the parents can do to help, like take temperatures? Can we I know other schools in the area have an app where you pre-register your kid to maybe take some of that burden off the teachers in the morning. I know you guys have so much stuff to do in the morning as the kids are coming and stuff. I know it's been really, from what I've heard, other people going to the other schools, it's been really helpful. Having the app, that way the kind of the onus is on the parents to pre-register their kids, take their temperature before they're coming to school, before they're getting on the bus. Just a suggestion
Barney,
to.
do you want to take over on that one, like we were talking about all about?
Right, so
This is Barney Mundog for attorney, school attorney.
yeah, so the Illinois Department of Public Health and ISBE, in their guidelines, they give districts, different choices on how to check the health of students and employees. And one of the options is for the parents to do the self-certification of the child at home. And employees will do it at home as well. And all their parents will be given a checklist, and that includes a temperature check of your child, along with a number of other questions. And as long as, when you send your child to school, that's your certification that your child meets the criteria to come to school. So as long as your child doesn't have a temperature of 100.4 or higher, doesn't have COVID symptoms, hasn't been in contact with someone that's positive in the last 14 days, there's a lot of criteria on that sheet of paper. If they meet the criteria, they get to come, they can come to school. So I don't recommend that if the parents are doing the self-certification at home, before they put their child on the school bus or send them to walk to school, I don't recommend that staff retake temperature at the door, because temperature is only one of about 14 criteria to consider. So the other problem is if you take the temperature at the door, you can end up with a whole bunch of kids that are next to each other within the 6 feet. And then if you've got 3 or 4 kids that do have a temperature, you've got to have a separate area for each student to be isolated and supervised by staff. And, but I guess the expectation would be the parents do it before they send their kid out the door, and there won't be a need to redo it when they come into the building. Perfect.
And Cassie, on that, note too, we were talking about entrances, and we haven't said anything yet, but we don't think we have, we basically have wings here. We have 5th, 6th grade wing, we have, the 7th, 8th grade wing. We can hopefully, we're talking about having enough staff to monitor the door. We could have maybe parent volunteers to work the door to make sure the kids are coming in the right entrance. So it's eliminating even more face-to-face. So the pre-K would probably have to come in the main entrance through the gym and move back here. Or the students that go back there, but then the other kids have their own door and sidewalk to enter that wing from that direction. So not everybody's, no high traffic areas right in front of the office and the main entrance. So we could possibly use some help there too.
I have a question about the volunteering, but, because like some people, like I'm off every other Friday, obviously I can't commit to doing it every day. Is there gonna be some kind of, I know they started a sign-up sheet, but like almost a schedule for people to sign up for the next day, or you know what I mean?
I think ideally if we have one, if you wanted to do Friday mornings or Friday afternoons for bus 2, I think if we can rely on it and lock it in, I think that'd be perfect. I mean, if you just want to volunteer one morning, if you can do it, obviously, how many people are going to want to be up here at 6 o'clock every morning? Well, especially if you have kids that can't be here until 7:30. So.
But how do we know that like 5 of us are going to show up on this random
Well,
day? That's where more.
Yeah, that's where we need to have
Like,
a sign-up sheet in
okay,
the office
yeah,
and, have it guaranteed, okay, Thursday morning, you're locked in, this is yours until you tell us you're not gonna make it. So.
Okay. And I have a question about the schedules too. So is if we go to 12:30, I know there was an initial schedule release when we thought we were coming in before. Is there an expectation that they're supposed to get online when they get home at 1 or whatever? I know these kids are gonna be differing times for buses and whatever.
That's the issue we have with the kids being here, getting online when they get home is the buses. So, the remote kids, the kids that choose remote will be required to be on in the afternoon. And then, the other students and the teachers able to work with them and jump on, they can't move. We can't require it because buses won't be back, the teachers have to start some of their sessions with the remote kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so will the kids be done? Then my expectation is my kid is done at 12:30 when I pick them up. And they may have homework to do, obviously, but they're not expected to be online, right?
Correct. They would have homework they're expected to do, that's part of their day. I'm sure there will be work to do when they get home, but they will get their contact with the teacher in person.
Okay, and they will be adding a PE in regardless every day?
There's a PE that we're going to rotate the homeroom into the PE, so we're not intermingling homeroom. But there will be time for the kids, yes, to get up. Hopefully the weather's nice, they can spread 6 feet apart, take the mask off for a little bit. We talked about snacks during that time because of the lunches, if we can go outside for the first group and spread out and do things like that throughout the day. Since I know it's a big concern for some people with the 12:30 was how late the kids were going to be eating. So, we talked about that earlier. So getting those kids that PE time to go outside, get these things off and spread out, maybe have a snack.
What is there going to, I know this is kind of random, but like my son has RTI in the morning, so right now he doesn't really get online until 8:37. So like if their RTI time is something they're going to bring in for having breaks, then it's probably not an option for him to, still have a break from 8 to 8:30.
Right. And we'll look at that. I know some of the grades have PE early, so we're going to look at the space out when they can get snack. Unfortunately, we can't. Some kids are going to have their PE. We can't help it right off the bat at 8 o'clock. There's just no way around it. So, I know the RTI teachers, if they have an early PE, will do their best to kind of work with the kids. And obviously, they need to make sure the kids are getting what they need in that class too. But that might be a time where the kid can get up and move around a little bit too, for the time we can to go outside.
Go ahead.
Hey, I have a couple questions. What about when the kids get here and later maybe they start having like a runny nose or they start coughing or something and they get sent home? Are they going to have a doctor's note to come back to school and saying that they don't have COVID or that it's just allergies or what's going to happen?
What is recommended is an alternate diagnosis, yes, if they have those symptoms. To come back. So if they get that alternate diagnosis, they don't have to stay out the full time. the alternate diagnosis is recommended if they get sent home for anything COVID-related.
For the remote children that signed up originally and then now are still going to be remote, originally it sounded as if in the program stated they were going to have to be online for a certain amount of time. Sorry, I just ran in here real quick. So does that mean that like the remote kids are going to have to do more work during the day? Or, I mean, how's that going to work out?
It'll just be, the plan is now, and again, as we get going with this, there's going to be modifications to it. I mean, we know this. But, you know, they would have activities to do from their teachers in the morning. It might be an instructional video, it might be instructions on, hey, this is what we're going over. Look at this in the morning. And then in the afternoon, that's when they get the chance to face-to-face with their teachers. So those are both kids. So there will be things in the morning for them to do, and the teacher will follow up on those things in the afternoon in those sessions.
Perfect. I have, in regards to the IEP kids, I think that's been wonderful because we have been reached out. Will has been able to go to therapies, but he is a remote child. With that being said, we had a discussion about if the kids were back in school, we were going to handle him differently because we don't want him around due to his issues.
Right.
Is there going to be a time gap between when if we are able to still use that? If he's going to come in the afternoon when there's no other kids there, like the original plan that we had kind of set up, is there going to be a time frame between when the kids leave and when he comes in that there's going to be like a cleaning session?
Yes.
Okay.
We can do that for those kids that way. It's absolutely.
Okay.
We don't need coming in for those services. Yes.
Okay.
From what I kind of heard earlier, it was a little bit hard to hear on the videos, but it sounded like we're getting away from using like the community positivity rate and that type of thing, and we're going to do something about what the percentages are here, which is good. Is that right?
Yes.
Can I clarify that first?
Well, since you didn't hear it, we're going to use 8% of our students or staff placed into quarantine due to either COVID-like illness or exposure to an individual who has tested positive for COVID-19. We'll be forced to make adjustments to our learning environment. We will look at metrics for the individual buildings. In Beckmeyer's case, 8% of student and staff population would equal 2 staff members and 13 students. For Breeze, 8% of student and staff population would equal 3 staff members and 35 students. If we hit them levels in either of the schools, that building will go straight to a 14-day remote learning period. Not for 14 learning days, but just 14 days remote. So if it happens on a Thursday, you're coming back 2 Thursdays from now. Basically, we're eliminating the threat of any continual spread into school when we do have an outbreak.
Yeah, and from what I've seen, it's or like the research says that there's really not a lot of kid-to-kid transmission, and that they're not really seeing that a lot in schools either. So, so why the 8%?
8% is basically the number of teachers we can afford to lose. Basically, it's that simple. That's where we came up with it.
And so, I'm sorry.
No, so we think we can afford between Travis subbing, Josh subbing, possibly Mrs. Strand subbing. We do have an aide at Beckemeyer that is a certified, or she has her sub certification, so she could help at Beckemeyer. So we set those numbers to where, because there's no subs to be found. Central's already had this. I think several other schools have already had these issues of not being able to find subs. Most subs are either brand new kids wanting to start in. A lot of them are retired. There's not many retired people want to come into the school situation right now.
Right. And so what about the situation if they aren't staff members? Because some of the schools I've talked to anyway, a lot of them are the kids, they predicted there might be staff issues, but some of them haven't had as much staff issues. So if there was only kids that were out for quarantine or a positive case or exposure, because a lot of it's from families, so they might have a lot of kids quarantined because someone in their family has it, and we don't have staff members, then would it still have to be the 8%?
If you get a kid that got it from a family member, you're looking at 1 kid. So that's where our metrics are 35 students. The question is, if that 1 kid has it, you know, and he is in school or not in school, you know, that's the thing, it's to stop spreading this constantly and to keep our schools safe from keep spreading it, you know, because like right now, some schools are using a rolling 10%. So they're hoping kids come off it, and it, you know, just a little bit we've seen, I can run some schools already. Central High School started, they're now remote. Woodlawn started, they're now remote. South Central started, they're now remote. Columbia's just a girls golf team got exposure. Freeburg had to shut down due to lack of staff. Positive. Red Bud had 50 plus positives.
No, I believe they had a couple students who were positive, and then they had a high number that were quarantined, so that was right.
That's what it is, 50 quarantine. Sorry, positive plus 50 quarantine. Evansville, a few days, they were shut down. Sparta, multiple classrooms and teachers quarantined. Willow Grove, they fell under the outbreak that we were talking about in this first question. Waltonville had positives, they went hybrid. Roxanne, whatever, shut down. Collinsville started, went remote, employees were positive. I know St. Clair County, they all started remote except for Freeburg, they were shut down. I know a lot of them are talking about coming back, all doing some sense of kind of what we're doing.
How many times in a classroom, let's say we go back in and they're in for 2 weeks, and then now we have a positive, now they're out. We do the quarantine time, they come back in, a couple weeks later, another positive. I mean, how many times are we just gonna keep going back and forth, or do we have like a set number of times for each classroom? If we hit 3 times a quarantine of these kids getting pulled in, ripped out, back and forth,
Well, it's 2020.
I understand that, I just didn't know
we all agree, I think, we want kids in the school. I mean, obviously, if it just continually happens, I would hope the state would eventually finally throw some of their knowledge down that we pay all our tax money to make these decisions that they forced on the local school districts to make instead of them, you know, because our salaries here on this board are crazy. I mean, we get paid a lot to do this. And, I mean, I'm probably gonna retire early. So, in their infinite wisdom, if it keeps going on like that, I pray that by that time, they would finally step in and give us some guidance. Because there's been zero guidance to this far for any school. It was, we're all for one for all, Clinton County schools. Then it went, yep, we're shutting down for 2 weeks, these numbers are too high. 2 days later, superintendent's met. Nope, we're going back to school, we're going remote. It was every man for himself. That's been a nightmare ever since. So there's no leadership in the state. So here we are, your local board members, well, 3 of this 4 are elected. The rest have been placed here by the rest of the board. There's another problem we can talk to, volunteerism. We have appointed 4 of these board members onto this 7-member board. That's how little participation we've had in school politics. It's not fun, I get it, but we need participation. We need people willing to try to run for school board. It will be my 10 years. I've only ran 1 time. I've been appointed 6 years on this school board.
And you have to realize, our policy for District 12 is we cannot have everyone from Breeze on the school board. You have to have a percentage of where he lives, you have to have a percentage from Beckermeyer, and you have to have a percentage from Breeze. So that's why some of us we've asked and, you know, kind of rolled around, and you're like, well, I thought you were on I was on the election last time. They're like, I thought you won. I said, no, didn't win because the other 2 guys who are from Breeze had more votes than I did. Well, Bob Brainkamp ended up getting off this drive bus. That's why I ended up coming back on to fill his spot.
So sorry to get off subject, but that's our little dive. Please, if you guys care, please think about running for school board.
I have a question.
Yes.
My son has seasonal allergies, and so I can guarantee you at some point, if not every day, that he's going to come in with a runny nose, a postnasal drip, and a cough. Can I please please bring me a note in from the doctor saying that my child has seasonal allergies. So that way I'm not getting a phone call every day that I need to come pick up my son because he's got a runny nose. Keeping in mind that if he does get sick to the office and other symptoms are appearing, then obviously please use good judgment. But if it's simply just a runny nose because of his seasonal allergies, then that note from the doctor suffice. And I'm not getting a phone call.
I would have to give this to Doug or to our attorney. I'm not a doctor, I don't know.
I mean, I'm sure the nurses have been trained and looking at the whole picture and going through the whole guidelines. Certainly runny nose can be one of the symptoms, but if that's all it is, keeping them out cough, that's not gonna just automatically, they're gonna say send them home. Imagine if you bring a note, it should be, then they will look at your child differently.
Is that encouraged if you,
Yeah, I mean,
you know, if your kid is.
Hey, let's let Barbie talk, he had a good point, as far as this, what would be the school policy probably.
That's the alternate diagnosis.
Yeah, so if an employee or a student has an ongoing medical condition or issue such as seasonal allergies, and they got a runny nose and whatever, and that's, of course, the symptoms for COVID-19 are so broad, it can be anything, you know, it doesn't have to be COVID. So the state board modified their guidelines, and a student that exhibits symptoms has to be sent home. But if that symptom is due to an underlying medical condition, you can go to your doctor, get an alternative diagnosis, and the student can return immediately, same day or tomorrow. But they do not have, but they don't have to be sent home every day they exhibit those symptoms that's related to the underlying diagnosis.
But I guess she's getting at, is he gonna be sent home the first time? Can you bring a note in?
Yes.
To prevent it?
Yeah. If your child has an underlying medical condition where
So
they
on
exhibit.
Monday, I can expect a phone call, my child being sent home, and I just need to have a doctor's appointment set up because he's got a runny nose and seasonal allergies. Am I understanding that correctly?
I think if you bring a note in before.
That's exactly it. Or can I have that note?
If you have a note ahead of time, I think that should be fine.
Yes, that's my question. Can I have that note ahead of time saying, my son has seasonal allergies, these are his symptoms?
Yes.
So that on September 16th.
Yes,
when
if your
school
doctor
starts
will
in
issue
person-
that, if your doctor to sign off on it.
Well, of course, because that's part of the physical form that's filled out.
I know that some doctors, some will and some won't. I mean, some doctors will say, yeah, it looks like it's related to your seasonal allergies, but we're gonna take a cautionary approach, and we're gonna send you for a test.
Okay, perfect, so if I get the
But
doctor's
if you have a doctor's alternate diagnosis, your child can come to school with those symptoms. If they're at school and they exhibit those symptoms, and it matches up with their alternative diagnosis, that's fine. But if it's a different symptom, or if the employee asks the child, are these abnormal? Is it more severe than normal? And if the child says yes, they're probably going to be sent home.
Okay, and that I do understand. Okay, thank you.
Do the doctors understand the added visits that this is probably going to put on, and are they going to support in-office visits? If my daughter gets sent home because she had a cough, and if I want her to be able to go back, I have to make doctor's appointment. Are they gonna support me bringing her in for a cough? Because prior to this, they didn't want to see a lot of the stuff unless it was serious, and if it was super serious, then they were sending you to, one of the hotspots. So, I mean.
I don't
that's
know,
what I'm
Manny,
trying to-
I don't think any of us can answer what the doctor will or will not say.
Well, but I mean,
Unfortunately,
if
one
you're
of us is a
telling
doctor, and he works for a hospital, he doesn't have private patients. So.
Right, but if you're telling me that I can't get my child back in school unless I have a doctor's note saying that this isn't COVID related, I need to understand, like, I wanna, again, I just really wanna understand what we can anticipate with this, because we are getting into the fall and winter season.
I would say anticipate absolute chaos, because that's what it has been, and I assume it's probably not gonna change. I mean, as far as I remember, we did have a pandemic in the 20s, but nobody here has lived through that. We have no idea what to expect, what we can expect, we have no idea. I mean, I don't think the experts really understand this yet.
But is this something that the COVID committee could potentially help plan for it, because I think that's one of the biggest challenges we've got right now is a lot of it seems like it was just kind of, here, it is what it is, and you can give my comments, and yes, I understand.
Right.
You know, there is a lot of chaos, there's a lot of craziness, but we maybe plan for this, help educate and inform the parents and the students so that we all understand, you know, kind of what's going on, and, you know, if we have to get in that situation where it's, you know, hopefully not, but a back and forth type thing, that it flows smoother and that it's not such a jumbled, chaotic.
Absolutely. I think if we get this committee going, we can, you know, come up with all kinds of points where we want to attack, what we think we may happen. I think that's a great thing for the committee to do.
I think you get something sent out.
Yeah, we can send that out. We'll put, I mean, we've sent a lot of things out throughout the course of this detailed plan, and we'll continue to send things out. But I want people to understand a lot of these things that are coming out that we're telling you are mandated. It's not us sitting here and saying, oh, this is what we're going to do. Like, this is what we have to, this is what we are being told we have to do. These are the rules we're being told we have to follow. I mean, we're not sitting here coming up with this stuff, trust me, a lot of it. We are being told, this is what you're doing, you go to school and be in person.
All right, by all means, please don't take it as I was pointing a finger that says.
I'm just trying to make sure people can hear, that's what I'm saying, is, I mean, that's a lot of this stuff, I know there's questions, I think maybe, but we're all figuring this out because this is what we've been told we have to do. And we know it's gonna be, you know, it's going to be a learning curve for everybody. It's going to be a tough process for everybody. It's going to cause some inconveniences for everybody. But that's what we're being mandated to do.
So, or if we get to the point, and I hope we don't, but if we would get, what I think Becca already said was 3 teachers.
Two staff members, 13 students.
Is that more or and?
That's and. Yeah, and.
Well, that's people,
No, either or. Yeah.
All right.
2 staff members, because that's all we can afford to lose in that school. 3 staff members here, 13 students there, 35 students here in Breeze. Yeah.
All right, so if you have 2 teachers that unfortunately end up testing positive, but they're asymptomatic, has there been any discussion about allowing them, if they're willing, and I know that that's totally a choice, if they wanted to teach from home, to still allow for that in classroom?
I mean, we've had discussions about that, but if we have 2 positive teachers, the chance of people out of that class being quarantined might be pretty high too. Yeah. And not being here anyway. You know what I'm saying?
The idea of quarantining is to stop any further spread, so we just continually don't have it.
If we have close contact with those teachers, they were positive here, those students in that class may also be forced to quarantine.
So when students are quarantined, they are still expected to log in and do their work and.
Correct. That's the
teachers are still going to get their form.
I have one district where the health department quarantined 2 sections of 5th grade. The 2 teachers had close contact with someone who's positive. The health department decided to quarantine both classes. So they moved those teachers to remote teaching from home for all of those students who stayed home and got remote teaching. So basically, the teacher and students did the learning from home.
They all went remote together.
That assumes that the teacher doesn't have any symptoms and is physically able to provide instruction.
So, okay, so I have a clarification. So you have a classroom of 20 kids at Beckham, and 1 kid is positive in this classroom, for 2nd grade class. So that kid's positive, and this whole room would then have to quarantine. Is that correct? So then you're over your limit.
So I can tell you what the rules state, that anyone that has close contact with a positive person must be quarantined for at least 14 days.
Okay.
Close contact is defined as within 6 feet, with or without a mask on, for 15 or more minutes. The 15 minutes is cumulative. So if I'm standing here for 5 minutes and I walk away and I come back for 10 more minutes, that's my 15 minutes.
Okay.
So what
We know, I've had situations where we know that the positive person in that room only had close contact with 3 or 4 people.
Okay.
The health department quarantined the whole classroom. It's always what the health department can decide. We argued with them that, hey, these are the only people that met the close contact criteria. The health department said, we don't care, we're erring on the side of caution, and we have the right to make the decision. And they did. Yes.
This might have been addressed already, and I'm not sure. I know up north in Sullivan, Illinois, my sister-in-law, her child has allergies, got sent home. He has an older brother in 4th grade. At that moment, because he was developing symptoms, they sent both of them home until they could get a doctor's note for the one. Is that the same situation here, where if you have siblings in other classrooms, where if one kid starts to develop symptoms at school, not only will that child be sent home, but also the child in the other grade will be sent home at the same time?
Yeah, so the State Board of Education issued guidance about 2.5 weeks ago, and this was new guidance that they came out with. And they said that if any child in the building has COVID symptoms, that all of the household members have to go home. That means if the child had siblings, if the child had a parent that was an employee, everybody had to go home if that one child had COVID symptoms. I think that's ridiculous. It's nowhere to be found in CDC guidance. My interpretation of ISB's guidance is that that was a recommendation, not a mandate. Ultimately, it's going to be up to the health department. But I'm advising my school clients that they have the choice, that they could send all of the students home in that household if one has symptoms, or they could choose just to send the one that has symptoms home. Now, the reality is it may only last one day, because if you send a student home with symptoms and that student goes and gets tested, well, until that test result comes back, everybody in the household has to stay home. So.
Thank you.
But the issue always comes up with seasonal allergies. They're going to quarantine the whole family because the kid has allergies, and then they go get their alternative diagnosis, and then everybody can come back. So.
Yeah, question. Go ahead, Jerry. Sorry, I had to speak into this, but I wanted to get answered. Like kids that come back that are positive after they serve their time and get released, is there going to be, some kind of counseling for them? And what I'm being told is they won't be quarantined for 90 days after 90 days from their test date. Not contagious. That's what the health department is telling me.
So you're saying after, if a kid becomes positive, he can't be quarantined for 90 days? I have heard that, and I think Barney is double back away.
Yes, you're right, it's 3 months. So if you test positive and you've recovered from COVID, and then you have close contact with someone who's positive, you are not required to be quarantined, as long as you don't have symptoms. And as long as it's within 3 months from the time you recover. So the 3-month period starts from the date that you have the onset of the symptoms that resulted in your positive. Or if you're positive with no symptoms, it's 3 months from the date that the specimen was collected. And that applies to students, that applies to employees. So you basically get a free pass if you were positive and recovered. For 3 months, it doesn't matter if you come in contact with someone that's positive or not. You won't be quarantined.
Yeah,
as long as you don't have symptoms.
This is a more direct with the board. I don't know if it's going to happen, it may happen, just something to be on a lookout for. The kids are going to find out who's positive, who's not, it's just going to happen. When they come back to school, there's going to be a lot of, this stuff going on.
Right.
Is there some kind of learning or education that we can throw into, the busy class day we got already, or some kind of pamphlets or anything?
I think we could try to come up with something, even the committee, but the school, obviously bullying's not allowed. If they're bullying him or having COVID, there'll be disciplinary action for sure. But here's the other thing, how do you give kids detention right now? Keep them after school. There's so many things that go into this that we don't have figured out yet. I'll tell you that right now. We just don't have it all figured out. It's going to be a day-to-day learning process for absolutely everybody. children, parents, teachers, staff, everybody, board members. This is all brand new. I don't know, we'll try. We do have, coping with kids. We will have counselors available still. I would assume this would be part of it also. So, go ahead.
I have a question about the teachers and like the classes. I think you guys briefly discussed, but the issues with the kids, the expectation of them having their homework turned in, the teachers posting them in different areas at different times, sometimes after school hours, how many times we're supposed to be checking each class. Kids are missing homework, getting zeros, they didn't even know it was out there. Because the teacher put it out there and then 14 kids commented on top of it. And now your assignment went down here, or your video, or your whatever. Obviously they're trying to adjust to what's out there, but every teacher is doing it differently, and every teacher has different expectations, which makes it really hard for all of us to figure out what that is, because there's no standards. This is what you need to do. Super frustrating, and I know it's probably frustrating for the teachers too, but our kids are suffering because they're getting zeros. I know somebody said somebody's getting zeros. There was a post tonight about have your homework in by tomorrow. I know that these were due last week or whatever, but if you have till tomorrow to find them and turn them in. So obviously they're providing some leniency, but only some of them are doing that. Is there any kind of standard way we can go about this? Like you have to post it here, or it's just a lot of stuff to go through.
And to elaborate on that, we need to have one way to turn in assignments. Some assignments you have to submit or share with your teacher, and then also quote unquote turn in. How are we all supposed to know how to turn these assignments in if it's not? Or some you have to take pictures of and email. It's just not clear cut across the board, and I get that. But my kid got a 0 on a math assignment because he did the work, shared it with the teacher. Apparently she didn't get it. We didn't get a reminder about the assignment, nothing. So, to elaborate on Amy, it's very frustrating.
Yeah, I went back and forth.
The grade book back.
Okay, before we get into too much of this, I get it, it's frustrating. I think Travis will speak to the union and the teachers immediately. And I think this is another committee we could try to start. Somebody who is way more computer literate than myself out there. Start more of an e-learning committee, something like that. If people want to help, these are the things to try to better our e-learning, because let's face it, we're going to be there again. We know we are. There's absolutely no doubt COVID happens. So if I would be not any good on that. That's going to have to be parents that know how to do it, and teachers. I'm sure we can find a group of teachers to work together and try to get something more universal.
And know that they're getting thrown into this, and they're working hard at it. And there's frustrations on their end too, and you're doing it now. We do all the planning, and now it's going into practice. So just know they are working hard on it, and it's just being thrown into something new. Trust me, they care about the kids. They want the kids to learn. They want the kids in here, and I know they're going to work, and they're learning stuff as they go, and then there will be changes. Just like in the classroom, though, there's different policies when they're here on how to turn this in, how to do that. So. They're individuals as well, so I know we can try to work to streamline things a little bit, and like we've been doing in 8 days, like you said, but they're working at it. They've been working at it hard for a while, and it's going to keep things are going to keep changing and getting better, and they're going to keep working at it and communicating with each other. Like I said, Jamie might have said this earlier. If you have concerns, call, email, talk with them, and start those lines of communication, and hopefully that helps out as well.
Go ahead, man.
So from the perspective of additional support to school needs, because I think that was one of the things that actually surprised me, is that when we went forward with any of the plans, there really wasn't kind of a call out to parents or the 4 volunteers, whatever it is. And I know that we've talked about it, a couple times through the meeting tonight. I know a lot of parents have expressed interest in, helping support where they can. Is there anything else specific that we as parents can do to help support the continued learning and everything that's needed with this, whether it's remote, a hybrid, or whatever it is? But I mean, is there something else that we can do to help support, within our capacities?
The most important thing I think parents can do right now is social distance. Is practice social distancing. Let's not go to CC Food Mart and see 2 out of 25 people in there with masks on. I'm not saying mask solves everything, but they say it will help slow the spread. Whether it's true or not, I don't know, but most of the experts agree to that. So I do feel social distancing, I know it's tough. It's with kids, it's like herding cats. It's really tough to keep them away from their friends. But that's the best thing we can do right now. I think we can set up some committees to look at things, but I mean, right now, transportation is number one. Transportation aid will be absolutely number one thing to try to keep us as safe as possible. And then, go ahead, ma'am.
Do you guys have anything in place for the students who are struggling academically and that have been struggling academically since remote learning in March and that may be behind, whether that be extra tutoring, extra help? Is there anything in place so that we can get them back up to those standards or where they were at pre-pandemic?
We hope that during those RTI classes that most of the kids have, that will be a time to help do some of this extra work. We still do have the study hall at the end of the day, so that will give kids time to work with the teachers that's in there. So, our RTI teachers do a good job of coming up with activities for the kids to do. A lot of times the RTI might be in tiers, but this year more than ever, I think it's going to be important that a lot of those kids are doing these activities during that time when they get it. That's still on the schedule. And I think it's going to be a good thing this year. That might help for some of the learning loss. That might help give them extra time to work on assignments with the help of the paraprofessional in that room. So, that's how we're hoping to use some of that time this year, because it's understandable there was that loss during the spring. So, those RTI times, those study hall times, hopefully they can be used for some things like that.
Isn't RTI one of the things that you said was going to be?
Well, once we do, hopefully we won't be having to utilize that for many people. We're hoping to use PPE for the time when kids can move around and do those things. But it wouldn't be the entire time during that RTI block year. So if we would have to take a few minutes from that block for a student to go outside and eat a snack, that would be great. But we don't want to just say, hey, this whole entire time we're using that. And I'm sorry if I miscommunicated that. That's not going to be the intent. The intent is to still utilize that time for kids to, I think I may have alluded to that, make sure they're getting the stuff done in there they need to get done. But if we're able to, if the class has first hour PE and, they have RTI a little bit later after work is done, maybe go outside 6 feet apart and we can have our snack.
How many minutes are you talking in a class? Is it like the 30 like we'll get now, or will it be less than 30 minutes in a class?
No, right now they're 31.
That's what it would be, don't limit it now with the RTI?
They're 31 in a class.
So you talked a little bit about, coping for life. Any other support systems in place for, not only the students, but the teachers, the parents? This is taking a toll on all of us, emotionally, financially, in ways that we can't even comprehend. More youth, more mental health conditions, developmental behavior. So is there anything else that besides coping?
Right now, unfortunately, that's the only counselor we are able to have in the building. Trust me, in a perfect world, again, Jamie alluded to some of the reasoning earlier as to why we don't, we would be able to have another counselor here. So they've been great over there, and I know hopefully that they can accommodate the amount of students they need, and they will continue to communicate with us as well. But that's kind of where we're at right now with the counselor front, that's.
If your student's not getting enough from the counselor that we have, please let the office know. We will find funds, we'll find a parent, we'll find somebody qualified to help them out, for sure. I mean, it's work, but just call, we'll find, either they will find somebody more than likely to help give them more one-on-one time, maybe give them some time at home if they're really struggling. I think there's probably funds to be found for something like that.
Just communicate with us and let us know, whether it be in the office, their individual teacher, sometimes they have a teacher they're very comfortable with, and they, students like to confide in those teachers. And we've seen that happen too, so it's community, just let us know those things, and we'll.
Okay.
So I know we announced our plan tonight, so are we gonna start working on future plans on, as soon as we get back? Cause I just honestly, I felt like that was one of the things that I felt was lacking whenever we went remote, is learning or hearing anything about what we were trying to get to, and then we come here and we're like, oh, we're going back on September 16th, which is fabulous. But is there any time frame, or will we start immediately working towards future plans, getting us back into school
Well,
full
we
time?
discussed before you came in, we're gonna try to get a committee together, basically a COVID committee. Is Jeremy still there?
Yeah, no,
Well,
he's not here, but
that's what we call it, right, the COVID committee. We'll look at starting back, before we get out of red or orange level, we can't, but hopefully we can get thinking outside the box and try to get a committee together. Try to get a couple teachers on it and see where we're at and try to start trying to get something towards full days or more days, or look at hybrids or anything like that.
Okay. Yeah,
As far as
I just didn't know if there was
educational-wise.
that plan, so I didn't hear that, so thank you.
Anybody else?
I have a question about that form that we're supposed to fill out in the morning for temperatures and stuff like that. I know a lot of parents get busy in the morning and forget to do that kind of thing. Is that then gonna fall on the secretaries at District 12, or is the parents gonna get a phone call, or how's that gonna?
Well, this is something that probably needs to be discussed. You only need to sign them.
You'll just fill it out.
You sign the form saying you're taking care of your child.
And then that's part of that, what you signed before, we're not reporting every day.
Yeah, I'm talking about the reporting every day where you do the temperature checks on your kids and stuff like that.
Basically an honor system.
Okay, so there's not a program you're gonna go into and
Yeah,
actually.
so you're gonna get a self-certification checklist at your house. And for each child, every day, you're gonna go through that checklist with each child. If they meet the criteria to go to school, you're gonna send them to school. When they show up at school, the district, you're telling the district that you've done the self-certification and your child meets that criteria. We don't want parents to sign a form every single day. Can you imagine this? How many students? 600. So if you had to sign a form every day, 600 students, how many parents wouldn't sign the form? You got the kids sitting outside.
I thought some of them were using apps.
Yeah,
That's what, where you log
apps
on
to
to.
check
But
temperature
even if
every
you get
day.
the app in, you got kids at the front door. Someone's gonna have to look at the app and say, oh yeah, we've got a parent that approved this student, you can come in. We don't wanna do that. It backs things up, it's gonna take too long. So you're going to do the self-certification for each child. When you send them to school, you're certifying they're good to go.
All right.
You're going to sign the form one time acknowledging, the procedures are. And you can e-sign it.
I was just gonna make a comment. I'm fine with the policy of doing it that way, but as a parent, or even as a provider myself, I have to fill out that form every day, asking those questions and write down my temperature. If I didn't have to fill out that form, would I think through all those things? Or I have a sore throat, would I think, oh, I should probably check my temperature? No. If I have 3 kids at home, am I gonna check every one of them if I don't have to put it somewhere? Probably not. Just saying, we might miss a lot of kids that actually go, especially like a first grader who might not say, oh, Mom, I have a sore throat today. So I just feel like it might be something to think about, whether we want to be a little bit more involved in that or not. And actually, one of the administrators I talked to at one school said that they have found that that's very helpful in making sure that the kids that are sick end up staying home.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's something we can look at, is especially for parent volunteers. I know Barney's concerned about having to build up, waiting to try to get in the door, trying to, temperature every kid. It's definitely something we can look into. Frankly, I think the teachers union might feel differently than what the board is proposing. So there'll very well could be some things in the work where we will self-check at the door or right once we get in the classroom.
Well, if they're car riders, couldn't we like go out to their cars or whatever and take temperatures, before they, as they pass through? Could we just be?
So you have a whole variety of stuff that.
Right.
It's part of parents' responsibility to make sure the child's healthy. When it's that something parents need to do.
Yeah, and I might clarify, I wasn't saying that I don't feel like parents can't do it.
Right.
I just think that they need to be.
The honor system.
Yeah, there's a lot of trust given with this.
Well, I understand what you're saying.
Even if you're taught it half, there are people who will lie.
That's true.
They do it in my work too, people that they don't want this work because
And they don't want to have their kids stay at home, but that's.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of places, even some restaurants over in Missouri, when you go to a restaurant, they'll take the temperature. But that's just one of 16 criteria. And there's no way that you could ask a second grade student, have you had close contact with someone in the last 14 days? As a public health department, ordered you to quarantine in the last 14 days. I don't think a kindergarten or first grade kid's going to answer that question. So there's going to be a lot of reliance on parents to do that checklist before they send the child to school. Yeah, and I know the schools in Missouri, they are not encouraging temperatures to be taken at the door.
They're remote.
Because you get a bunch of kids backed up, they're all arm to arm, elbow to elbow, waiting to get their temperature taken, and now you've got close contact.
What part of Missouri are you referring to?
So,
What part of Missouri are you referring to?
I'm from
What part
Baldwin, Missouri.
From where?
Baldwin, Missouri.
Okay, because the city of St. Louis, they're all remote.
Not there.
Is there any other questions? Let's make a motion to adjourn. It is 8:34. Motion adjourned.
I'll second.
Okay. Motion made by Cruzy, second by Niemeyer. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you all for coming.
Yeah, thank you.